Today we'd like to talk about one of the exemptions in FSMA, and it involves canned foods, low acid canned foods. A little bit of background. Low acid canned foods are those products that you find on the shelves of grocery stores that do not require refrigeration as long as the seal remains intact. These are shelf-stable foods that are usually hermetically sealed. They might be in cans, they could be in bottles, they could be in pouches, they could be in glass, they could be in metal. It really doesn't matter as long as there is a seal and that the food is stable. And food is ordinarily stabilized that way by thermal processing, which would be in the case of low acid canned foods, or by lowering the pH, which is acidifying the food. Those are called acidified foods. These are the first foods that FDA regulates where the agency cared and wrote a regulation to control how the food was made in order to control the very significant food safety risk of botulism. Botulism in canned foods is caused by the growth of an organism that does not require oxygen to live. And so it'll grow up in an environment where there's no oxygen, like a can. And it can feed on the food that's in the can, and it produces a toxin. It's a neurotoxin that causes botulism and can kill you. It's a very significant illness, foodborne illness, and that's controlled through FDA's low acid canned food and acidified food regulations. Now, there's always been some regulations related to food safety. I say always, I mean for 70 years, but many of the older regulations were very loose about how the facility was to process. These low acid canned food and acidified foods, FDA has governed for quite some time. Before someone sells low acid canned food or makes a canned food in the United States, they have to submit to the FDA additional registration information and information about their processing, which FDA reviews and has to agree would be adequate to control the risk of botulism. Because that system already exists, Congress exempted low acid canned foods and acidified foods from a number of provisions under FSMA, but not all of them. FSMA is actually quite clear that the exemption related to canned foods is limited. It really uncovers the microbiological hazards. Now, when you look through FSMA, you'll see that Congress contemplated a number of different kinds of hazards. Physical hazards like metal or glass that might be found in food. Chemical hazards like color additives or pesticides that might have residues on the food. And then, of course, microbiological hazards like Clostridium botulinum, which is a bug that causes botulism. Because the canned food regs control the micro hazards already, Congress exempted low acid canned foods, but only as to the micro hazards. There, of course, would be other hazards that would apply in the canned food industry. Like I mentioned, some physical ones, or some chemical ones, or some radiological ones. So really, the exemption is extremely limited. All of those other food safety hazards. A good example would be the color yellow 5 that might be in canned pickles in order to give it a certain color. Well, yellow 5 is an allergen, and so FDA would say you must control the yellow 5 risk under FSMA, not under low acid canned food. Pesticides or metal inclusions or glass inclusions in the product, all of that has to be controlled under FSMA because low acid canned food regulations fail to cover those risks. So there is an exemption, it's just very limited, and the canning industry, importers, exporters, manufacturers will still be subject to the preventive controls and the foreign supplier verification program under FSMA for all these other hazards. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us here at FDAImports.com. We remain committed to helping the industry and our clients understand and comply with these regulations as they're implemented by the FDA.